What big city has the worst public schools in the country? For years, it was Washington, D.C. Just 59% of the kids graduated. Only 8% of 8th graders were proficient in math. But then 3 years ago, Washington's mayor chose Michelle Reed to head the school system. And today, Washington schools are no longer the worst in America. Reed pushed reforms like merit pay for teachers. What a concept. And she demanded the right to actually fire bad teachers. She joins us now from Washington, D.C. So, Michelle, this is controversial to fire anybody in government schools. Why is that?
Yes, it is. Well, I think that, unfortunately, over time, what has happened in public education is that tenure has taken on a meaning that it never was intended to have, which is that now people consider it to mean that you have a job for life regardless of performance. And there are so many protections in place that are disincentives to and barriers to school districts being able to remove ineffective teachers from the classroom that it's a tremendous problem.
How do you know they were ineffective?
Well, I think you can look at a lot of things, but one of the most important things that we look at is student achievement levels. Is a teacher able to move a student significantly in terms of their knowledge base?
And by firing them, and you also fired 100 workers from the district's 900-person bureaucracy, you've been called worse than Hitler. One candidate for mayor said, the first thing I'm going to do is fire Michelle Reed. Right. A lot of people hate you for this.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, we took a bureaucracy that was, when I took over, it was about 1,000 employees, and now it's half that amount. We have about 480 employees now, and I think that by any measure,
that's my studio audience applauding that.
But I think by any measure, people would tell you that the school district is actually running much, much more effectively than it ever did before. So we looked to really get rid of the bloat and put money down where it belongs, which is at the classroom level. And so did that earn me some enemies? Absolutely. So did closing low-performing schools and moving out low-performing principals and teachers. But at the end of the day, I was not brought here to be popular. I was brought here to fix the schools, and that's exactly what we've tried to do.
So when you say fix the schools, test scores are up. Washington's no longer the worst. Detroit is now the worst system. But they're not up that much.
That's right. It's actually pretty astonishing because even though we have seen tremendous, actually unparalleled gains in our schools over the last 3 years in terms of the academic achievement levels, we are still falling woefully short. Less than half of our children are on grade level proficiency in reading and mathematics, and so it really is still a very, very challenging situation and one that continues to need a lot of work and a lot more difficult decisions being made.
All right. Well, some people, as I said, don't like what you've done and have tried to do. One who's with me in the studio right now is the head of a New York school board, Noah Gottbaum. So, Noah, what's wrong with firing some bad teachers?
There's nothing wrong with firing bad teachers, but ultimately you need to focus on improving the schools, and bad teachers are not the problem.
They're not?
You have a systemic issue. This is what, if we talk to your audience or wherever, most teachers are excellent. There are some bad ones, like in any profession. But the focus on firing teachers, who all studies show are the most important factor in our classrooms, and putting them at odds, it may be one of the reasons why the D.C. school have not really improved. When you have
but wait a second. Your father is a union leader, and you come from a culture of unions, and firing people is forbidden, basically, in a lot of unions. And yet I work in a business where people get fired all the time. And Jack Welch said, running GE, and he turned it from a smaller company into one of the most successful in the world, he said, every year you ought to fire the bottom 10% of people. What's the big deal? Fire people. That's how new people come in and you make things better.
Well, first of all, those who are truly not performing, the bottom X percent, they don't remain. But that's all this discussion about that takes our eye off the ball of how are you really improving the school system? Because she's been able to fire teachers. What about focusing on how do we improve the schools? All this talk about cutting these teachers,
how do you
improve
a school?
Well,
more money?
In some cases, absolutely. Instead of putting teachers on the defensive, you should be working with them. They have to be accountable, but so does
Michelle. Respond?
Yeah, John. This notion that somehow the solution to all of our problems is to throw money at them is absolutely incorrect, and I actually think that we've proven that here in Washington, D.C. Before I got here in 2007, we spent more money per child in this city than almost any other jurisdiction in the country, and what we got for that money was the lowest performing, most dysfunctional school district in the nation. I would say that good teachers can make all of the difference, and that's why we need to be focused on doing whatever we can to ensure that there is a high-quality teacher in front of every single child every single day.
And Noah, by firing 5% of the teachers, you provide an opportunity to new teachers who might be the new best teacher.
And again, if teachers are not performing, and that has
some are not performing.
You asked Chancellor Rhee, how does she judge that? And you did not get a straight answer, because there is not she didn't.
I was very clear.
There was not a straight answer on how do we judge.
Are you going to move student achievement levels forward? Look, when I got here,
how are you
as
measuring
John was
student
saying,
achievement levels?
Let me be very clear about this. When I got here in 2007, 8% of our children, of our 8th graders, were operating on grade level in mathematics. But if you were to have looked at the performance evaluations of the adults in the system at the same time, you'd have seen that 95% of them were being rated as doing an excellent job. How can you possibly have a system where all the adults are running around thinking that they're doing great things and what they're producing for kids is 8% success? That is madness. We have to be able to align how we evaluate teachers with the results they're producing for kids.
This is a smokescreen. You yourself said she's been able to cut the bottom percent of her teachers to do exactly what she says is going to produce these fantastic results. And she hasn't produced these fantastic results because
I totally disagree.
That is not
we
a silver
have
bullet.
seen in our
our
secondary schools over the last 3 years, we've seen 14 and 17 percentage point gains in reading and math respectively, which are larger gains than any other urban school district in this country over that 3-year period of time. So if you don't think that is results, then I want to know what is.
The issue should be, what are we doing, what plans do we have to improve the system? And just cutting and saying that's where we are is holding one piece, not very effectively, and it's not getting to the heart of the problem, which is we are all responsible for improving it, and we got to be working on that.
But that's a platitude that the union has said for year after year. We're all responsible. The parents aren't interested. Give us more money. We gave you more money. You haven't done much good with it.
We also gave our administrators a lot of power. Okay.
Let me just say that we hold everybody accountable. We hold our principals accountable. We hold our custodians accountable. I am held accountable. I am accountable for meeting certain goals at the end of every year, and I serve at the pleasure of the mayor. I'm not protected by tenure, and if at any point I am not serving children well, then I should go from my job too.
Well, Noah, before you stick around, we will return to you. You can take questions from the audience, and our other guests would like to argue with you. But, Michelle, given what you just said, that's my last question for you. Tuesday was Election Day in Washington. Results are in. The mayor who appointed you lost. The likely new mayor has had fights with you in the past. When you first fired teachers, he said, "Why did you choose not to follow the law?" Word is you're toast. You're going to be fired.
Well, you know what? Here's what I believe. Over the last 3.5 years, we have been in the incredible fortunate position where we had a politician who was willing to take all of the heat associated with making some of these hard decisions around closing schools and firing teachers. And because of that, the children of the District of Columbia have improved their academic achievement levels in significant ways. And so it's been an honor for me to serve in this role, and I would have had it no other way.
And just one more question then. Why are they hard decisions? I don't get it. I would think firing 5% of the teachers, especially when the population of students is shrinking and the school system is in trouble, would be accepted by the people in town. I would think they would love you for finally shaking up a horrible system.
Well, I mean, you have to remember that we're talking about people here. And any time an individual is losing their job, that's a tough thing. And I do want to also note that some of these folks that we've had to terminate are very nice people. They just might not be effective educators. And sometimes folks have a hard time differentiating between those two things.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle Rhee. Good luck to you on whatever happens in the future. Later, how is the government school system like this terrible car? And what can we do about that? But next, your questions for our guests.